Mariano e a Ju, que vão entrar na sequência. Oi, oi! Olá, bom dia! Bom dia, bom dia. Agora sim, bom dia a todos e todas. Sejam muito bem-vindos ao último dia. Ah, não ouvi ninguém falar. Ah, pois é, né? Triste. Mas está chegando ao fim. O último dia da terceira edição do Festival de Investimentos de Impacto e Negócios Sustentáveis na Amazônia, uma realização do Idesam junto ao Impact Hub Manaus. A gente está muito feliz de receber vocês aqui nesse segundo dia. Temos um dia cheio. Vamos encerrar para cima, com chave de ouro, com muita música, com muitas apresentações culturais, uma cervejinha, né, que a gente merece também no final do dia, com aquelas conexões, e tenho certeza que a gente vai ter um dia muito produtivo hoje. Quero começar com alguns recados de luz. O primeiro é pedir para que vocês respondam a pesquisa no aplicativo. Então, para quem ainda não baixou o aplicativo, Eventu. Lembrando que é a única forma de fazer perguntas. Então, é muito importante que vocês baixem esse aplicativo para poder interagir com os painelistas, beleza? E, além disso, a gente quer pedir que vocês respondam uma pesquisa. Então, é muito simples. Quando vocês acessarem o aplicativo, primeira página tem lá um quadrinho, pesquisas. Você clica lá, já vai ter a pesquisa que você responde em 15 segundos. Sério. Muito rápido. E isso vai ajudar a gente a entender um pouquinho do perfil de vocês, né, do público, como é que vocês estão vendo essa edição. Então, é muito importante, se vocês puderem responder, a gente agradece. Segundo recado é sobre o mercado da Amazônia, aquele mercado lindo, maravilhoso e tudo de bom que a gente tem lá na entrada. Infelizmente, não vai ficar até o final do dia. Então, é importante que vocês se organizem para visitar o mercado, fazer suas comprinhas de luz, né? O mercado fica até 2 horas da tarde. Então, no horário do almoço, vocês conseguem dar uma volta, fazer a feira de vocês com tranquilidade, tá bom? Então, até as 2, peço que vocês se organizem para prestigiarem o mercado da Amazônia. Lembrando que são mais de 50 marcas de produtos produzidos aqui, né, na nossa região, produtos das diversas áreas, como alimentícia, cosmético, moda, para casa, estilo, então tem para todo mundo. E aí, eu não poderia deixar de falar dessa camiseta, olha que coisa linda. Fazer fala mais alto, é a blusa, é a camiseta aqui do evento. Muita gente perguntou, mas pouca gente comprou. Então, a gente pede que vocês tiverem interesse nessa camiseta maravilhosa, com essa arte incrível da Adina Abreu, que é uma artista local maravilhosa. Então, vocês podem acessar isso aqui lá no Mercado da Amazônia. Beleza? Então, sem mais delongas, para fazer a abertura oficial, trazer um balanço do que aconteceu ontem, eu gostaria de chamar ao palco a Juliana Teles e o Mariano Cenamo. Por gentileza. Pode aplaudir.
Falta mais um. Bom dia, pessoal. Bom dia. Que isso, todo mundo recuperando as energias ainda. Espero que vocês recuperem mesmo, que o dia vai ser intenso. E o final do dia também. Então, a gente quer dar boas-vindas a esse terceiro dia do FIINSA, mas esse segundo dia que está acontecendo aqui no Estúdio 5, e relembrar um pouquinho do que a gente vivenciou ontem, né? E contar um pouquinho para vocês também do que vai acontecer hoje. Ontem a gente teve uma abertura linda com 2 contadores de histórias aqui, o Maikson e o Tiago, que convidaram os seres encantados da floresta para estarem aqui com a gente, pedindo licença para a gente estar utilizando esse espaço aqui no Estúdio 5 e acolhendo todo mundo que está aqui presente, as mais de 600 pessoas que estiveram presentes aqui ontem, de todo o Brasil, com diferentes interesses, com as diferentes expectativas aqui dentro do FIINSA. Ontem a gente começou o dia com diferentes perspectivas, né, sobre que evidenciaram as oportunidades e o papel central da Amazônia no mundo. Assim, né? De manhã a gente teve aqueles painéis que trouxeram esse contexto mais geral. Nas plenárias a gente teve a presença de investidores e de financiadores do ecossistema e também de lideranças que viajaram do interior da floresta para trazerem suas poderosas vozes para cá, inclusive conectado aqui virtualmente.
E durante a tarde nós passamos para os 3 temas centrais que nós consideramos para a construção desse ecossistema de impacto na Amazônia e trouxeram toda a complexidade que existe os desafios que nós temos que enfrentar para transformar teoria na prática. Na sala Curupira, nós tivemos diferentes temas e discussões até inconvenientes, eu diria, sobre como é complexo cooperar e transformar tudo isso, gerando benefícios para todos. A gente começou com um painel dos botocórnios aos jaraquis, discutindo se realmente os investimentos chegam para todos ou se ficam represados em algumas camadas que a gente chama os níveis de investimento ou níveis de fundos e gestoras. Depois colocamos o dedo na ferida, falando sobre cooperação e competição entre os atores, num painel sobre canibalismo sanguinário, que foi muito bacana. E depois entramos na discussão sobre comunicação, como acertar o tom e evitar o greenwashing ou até o Amazônia washing, como foi colocado no painel.
Na sala Boiúna, a gente teve os temas focados nos caminhos de empreendedorismo da Amazônia. A gente começou com conversa sobre custo logístico e de produção e de como que é difícil superar esses desafios. Depois, a gente foi entender um pouquinho mais do caminho, de qual que é o caminho necessário para que a gente tenha pesquisa e iniciativas acadêmicas sendo transformadas em negócios.
Depois, na sala Iara, falamos de diferentes aspectos que envolvem o desenvolvimento territorial.
Of the territory and its development. We started with the urban Amazon. It is a theme which is out of the radar for many investors, but also to remind people that the Amazon also has cities. The discussion of how many entrepreneurs from the forest sometimes have bigger relationship with the city than with the countryside. Then we talked about a hot subject, which is actually literally like that, the climate change and how it has impacted entrepreneurship and investment here. So if it is difficult to do that in normal conditions, let alone when we have droughts. And then finally, we finished with creativity and art, listening to artists and creationists who inspired us. In Matinta Pereira, a room upstairs, where we had a few pitches, we had 12 entrepreneurs from Paricatuba. They were doing the first pitch about their businesses to women investors in the Amazon. And then we finished the day talking about failures, mistakes, and obstacles, which are part of every entrepreneur, but that many times we don't bring to the round table, but which are extremely important. And also we have to celebrate trial and error. The day today will be focused on solutions. So we will migrate from understanding to trying to solve, highlighting cases which are a reference to our ecosystem. Our panels will bring voice to entrepreneurs who have been successful. They are our best candidates for botocorns. And we will bring financiers and investors and discuss innovative mechanisms to be able to get the capital through. Yesterday, they talked a lot about capturing capital, but the fact that this capital does not necessarily become investment in our region. In the parallel rooms these afternoons, we are going to focus on the economy of the standing forest, cocoa, carbon, values for biodiversity, talking about the food industry, fashion, tourism. It is a special room. There will be a special room for women, Black people, youngsters. All that is also being broadcast live. Oops, I'm sorry, the sound has stopped here. Just a moment, we will check with the technicians if they're having a problem.
de impacto na Amazônia, da filantropia ao mercado.
From
Eu gostaria de chamar
philanthropy to the market. So I would like to
será o
call
moderador deste
Mariano, who will be the moderator in this panel. Thank you. I have some time now to have a look at my notes here.
Gente, esse é painel muito especial.
It is a very special panel for us, and I will invite our panelists, and then I will introduce them. Ilana, Juliana, Joanna, Gustavo, please come on to the stage, FIINSA stage.
Na 15, vou dar 5. Bem, meus queridos,
Hey, my dear colleagues, let's start the day.
hoje vai ser dia que a moderação vai ter que ser muito
Today, moderation will have to be very strict with regards to time. I know that you are all professionals and you will respect the time, but we have a clock that is already counting the time down. And please reset it so that they can start off. The panel is to discuss the importance in innovation in investment models. Sometimes we discuss why we don't have the intensity and volume of investment here. And yesterday, they mentioned a lot the lack of a business pipeline. The investments don't get here because businesses are not mature enough for the market. Wouldn't it be the market that would have to adjust to the local challenges faced by businesses here? So the composition here is perfect, and I would like to start by asking all of you to spend 5 minutes introducing yourselves and talk a little bit about the theme. What we have to do for investments to get here, for us to be able to make promises into a reality. Ilana Milesi is an entrepreneur. She's a local leader based on gender equality and the investments that she does on people. You have been a reference for many people here. Wow, it's very hard to start like that. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you for the invitation to be here and congratulate Idesam and Impact Hub for this incredible festival, 3 days to talk about the Amazon in the Amazon. This is really good for new connections, new opportunities of making this match come true. I usually say that our family arrived here 5 generations ago. So I'll use a phrase from Valcleia. She says, for many, the Amazon causes, but for us, the Amazon is our home. This is actually a pun between 2 words in Portuguese, causa and casa, which have almost the same pronunciation. Okay, just to make it clear for foreigners who might be listening to her. So the retailer who works here, Bemol, works well. I hope you become a client. There is a shop here. No, I'm just joking. So this trajectory of entrepreneurship is in our family, in our DNA. And this movement of doing sustainable development, finding opportunities and bringing in collaborators. This has been a movement which has been very important and has been happening in our region. So I'm truly glad to be taking part of that and seeing so many entrepreneurs with different projects and solutions for this new economy that we are now being able to see here in the Amazon, different from the traditional model that we used to have. Okay, a round of applause for her.
Obrigado, Ilana. A gente vai
Okay,
voltar.
thank you, Ilana.
Ser econômica no tempo, inclusive.
Thank you for using the time.
Mas depois eu volto.
Okay, I'll go back to you.
Eu queria passar agora direto.
Now, Joanna, please. Joanna from the Amazon to Pará. You are a FIINSA veteran. This is your third FIINSA. You started here with Manioca. She was doing a pitch. She received her first investment and it has grown so far. But besides being an entrepreneur, you have been an active voice among the different entrepreneurs. There is a net being created, and there is a special role that entrepreneurs have in making themselves be listened to. This is the way we invest, how you should accept money. So thank you for being here with us. Okay. He has already shown the clock because I like talking. See, I am Joanna. I am from Manioca. I am a founder and director nowadays. Together with Paulo, we are a team of 18 professionals. Like Mariano said, I am a FIINSA veteran. This impact environment was somehow recognized here. It was the PPA that generated the mass, and then we saw ourselves as an impact business. And it was this ecosystem that has taught us to work with investments and also to be able to impose yourself towards the investment as well. Amas was the first investor that we had, the market investor. Family office was the first one. Then we had A plus for 2 times, and who connected us to ABF, it was A mais or A plus, the second investment that we got. And this PBF negotiation was really important and hard, even though there was a flexibility. It's especially important to tell investors ABF is a fund that was created to invest in the Amazon biodiversity. It is an English fund, and Manioca had never received investment from that kind of fund. And when this happened, there was no ready formula. They had a model, and Manioca could have accepted that, but we didn't. We negotiated with them. We tried to force them towards the impact, even though sometimes funds are impact funds, but depending on the logic used to make this fund, they don't understand that the dynamics of impact is different and the return for impact goes beyond the financial investment. And in this negotiation, we managed to get some flexibility. I think ABF learned a lot from us as well as we did from them. They learned about flexibilization, and we learned about finances in general. This is important for you to know. Entrepreneurs and investors have to know that they are not short talks, which will be solved in a month. They are longer relationships, and that you need to keep for you to have an understanding that is a win-win. When we finally formalized this process, we had to learn a lot. When ABF said, we want a projection for 10 years for Manioca, I spent some sleepless nights because I had no idea what it meant. I had no idea of why. And what I would say wouldn't happen. So why would I say it? So there was a lot of learning in terms of governance. Manioca is still a small business that wants to become big, but there is governance of a middle-sized company. Why? Because this relationship with the investor will demand that kind of governance. And after that, Ajinomoto from Brazil, which is a new phase. This is the moment we are going through now, because those funds are very important to bring in resources. And many times they bring in knowledge about impact, but a company of our segment has many other things besides money to take into account. So we need to have this view, mainly companies who might be here, who might want to get attached to impact businesses. there has been a very good relationship with Ajinomoto. It took 2 years for us to sign contracts. So I always tell those who want to be invested on, you get to know who is investing in you. If you get as an ally a company that doesn't have the cultural fit with your company, this can be a real problem. So it was 2 years. It took 2 years for the Ajinomoto to get to know us, and we also got to know them. And so we've had a contract now for a year, and we are expanding the market. We are also expanding knowledge due to mentorships that we have been having, and it's not an easy journey. It's a learning journey, but it has been really enjoyable. So for those who know me, if I say that something is enjoyable, it is because it's really good.
Obrigado, Joana. Realmente eu lembro.
Thank you.
Cada dia dessa jornada.
I remember every single day of this journey when we assessed contracts. Mariano was very important, okay? He was like a judge. He presented things to us, but we were afraid of telling ABF that we wouldn't do it. And he kept saying, no, you go there and you tell them. And I think he went back to the ABF and said, you should talk here. So these partnerships were really, really helpful. The contracts exist, but the trust relationship is very important. And this relationship has to be built from the beginning. Yes, this is true. For trust to exist, it has to be built. We will go back on this journey, okay? But it's important to... And thank you, Juliana. Thank you for having come to the FIINSA. It's important for us to be able to attract big companies of the sector who will be willing to invest much more than capital. It could be philanthropic capital, private capital, venture capital, but not just capital. So I celebrate that it is the first M&A operation when a startup actually gets associated to a great leader of the sector. So, Juliana, welcome for being, thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting the Amazon for Ajinomoto's role. Please tell us a little bit about that. What triggered your investments in the Amazon? Thank you, Mariano, for this invitation. I feel honored to be here. It is the first time I come to Manaus. My name is Juliana Okudo. I am a leader of Ajinolab. This is the Open Innovation Hub from Ajinomoto. This is a global company, Japanese company here in Brazil. It is a leader in seasoning, the seasoning industry. And this lab, our Ajinolab, is there to open the company to other possibilities. So our role is to connect internal challenges to what is beyond the company's walls. Japan is an island. Japan became very good at being good with their expertise for the island. But this open innovation idea, it came late to that culture, getting aligned with other people who are outside your company to build something new. And Ajinolab made this proposal in that environment, and it was the first time that happened. Even the launching of this hub was also unseen, was a novelty to the group. And this was a demand that we understood was necessary. So what do we think are important opportunities for innovation? Usually the most complex ones. And when I say that, I'm talking about challenges related to ESG. They are more complex to the world as a whole now, not just to our company. You are here talking about that every day. So Ajinomoto is a signatory of the Global Pact. So we have challenges for 2030 to reduce our negative impacts and generate positive impacts. And we can't do that without mentioning innovation. We have to somehow be able to catalyze objectives and bring in innovative solutions for challenges that perhaps we cannot see solutions to. So innovation is a fundamental aspect of that. And we see these important alliances, these partnerships. And what Ajinolab does is to connect startups to universities, to researchers. So all these connections are done inside this hub, which so far was only me then, but now we have someone else on the team, but it's a place of connection. So Manioca came into this story, let's say. We understood that we had to amplify the healthy food portfolio. This is a challenge for any global company to bring in the Brazil way of seeing. Why? Because we are not colonized anymore. We have to place ourselves as more than just a doer of processes which have been created by someone else. So we started talking a lot about, let's say, Brazilianity. What is it to be Brazilian? What is it to be Brazil? We had a lot of difficulty in doing that inside that environment. We realized that so many people had been doing that. So why couldn't we connect those people? But we didn't have this process, this open investment process. It was a reality for Japan, but not for Brazil. So we had to prove and ask them, why not? What if we created a new process? And then we had to work really hard to be able to change this innovation vehicle in the company, because they didn't really have an innovation means there. So you have to have an entrepreneur spirit, let's say, to be able to create that process. So there was a lot of learning for us at Ajinomoto, for Manioca. And it's not just money, okay? Ajinomoto has a Japanese culture of building together. Everything is placed to everyone, and everyone has to understand that it is a win-win relationship. And Jo has said very well there that it is a healthy relationship. That's it.
Muito obrigado, Juliana. Espero que outras empresas.
I hope other companies can follow Ajinomoto's model. I hope they want to come to the Amazon with the company as well, not just philanthropy. Okay? Gustavo Verdeguerra. Fundo Vale is celebrating 15 years, always innovating. You started with the traditional philanthropy, always believing that we have to transform the role of philanthropy, especially when you want to foment a new ecosystem. Marcinho was also here. Thank you for having come here, for everything that you have been doing. Tell us a little bit more about your view, about the challenges that you have been facing. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, for the panel, and with incredible stories. And beside you, Fundo Vale is celebrating 15 years, Idesam 20 years. You and Idesam, you have been a partner from the very beginning till this impact strategy for investment. So it's a great satisfaction to be able to talk to you and to people who actually do it. So the slogan is doing speaks louder than words. So this has a lot to do with what we believe in Fundo Vale. We are there, we are prototyping, we are testing, we are checking the possible action points to be able to accelerate the ecosystem. In this perspective, I liked your provocation when you said that we should try to find solutions. The first one is Amazon bioeconomy. Just to connect to what you have said, if all this has happened, Fundo Vale's resources was used in the past, and We have philanthropic resources for institutional strengthening, developing an acceleration plan, and a resource for examples like Maniocas and the synergy that we have seen here. So the first focus would be look at socio-bioeconomy, and even though there have been advances, we still need a lot of capital to look at the challenges in the Amazon. Then the second point, we have put ourselves a target to be able to recover and protect 500 hectares of forest. It is a voluntary target, and the challenge behind it is how can we think of solutions, innovative ones? And again, the theme for the dual tank. There are studies showing that the forest and the legal economy can move millions and millions of reais. So our challenge is it possible to find scalable solutions of high social environmental impact and at the same time being scalable economically? So this was a challenge. There was no pipeline. There was no open innovation. So I identify a lot with entrepreneurship. So we left from a traditional philanthropy and we started saying we have to develop new businesses. We have important results here, Caporã, Inoca, many of the actors who are here, they have our capital focused on solutions of impact businesses that will solve environmental problems here in the Amazon. And the third one for philanthropy, which is looking at financial mechanisms. How can our capital unblock another capital, an even bigger scale capital coming from private sectors, organizations, because differently from you, we cannot act on the value chain. So we wouldn't do an M&A process. We are an accelerator to get companies to be able to get to this process. So we try to adapt and fit the capital to the project. And those in the audience who can raise your hand if you work with impact businesses, if you are an entrepreneur, or if you work with funds, just for us to have an idea how many people here are involved in that kind of business. Okay, please keep your hands up. Those who have received in the last year 1 million reais or has made 1 million reais in income. Please keep your hands up. 10 million reais now. Now 100 million reais. Okay, 2, 3 hands maybe. So it is about building bridges. Many people ask why Fundo Vale allocates capital in investments. This is it. We try to connect those who are developing businesses and those who have the capital to help them do so. And this is really challenging even for philanthropy. So we hope this philanthropic function will not exist because we hope that impact businesses will be taken into account all the time. But until we get there, BNDES, we will be there to help you. Fundo Vale will be there to help you. It is really important. Thank you, Gustavo. I couldn't raise my hand because I was here in the panel. Otherwise, I would have raised my hand. But in the case of Amas, Fundo Vale has invested. We invested the compromise of using the philanthropic fund and the other philanthropic funds. We started with a plan. They put on 2.5 million. Then we got another 2.5 million with one of the investors from the private capital. And then with the investments that we have done in 3 years, we managed to leverage 4 times more the value invested with direct investors, such as ABF Fund, Ajinomoto, etc. So the wheel is turning, and Fundo Vale is at the baseline of that. Okay, so please adjust the clock now, because now you will do an exchange of opinions there. So,
Falando primeiro, Ilana, né?
Ilana will start talking about what Bemol has been doing to foment entrepreneurship. I think it's wonderful the way you talk about it. People here are saying my ticket is 100,000, 200,000, but you reach out for people who have much less than that. So if you can tell us a bit about that, I will ask a question that what is missing? Is it money or entrepreneurs? Well, Mariano, I think the work that we have been doing is trying to find partners. It's like an entrepreneurship. We are making connections with entrepreneurs. So we are looking for solutions to our clients that might improve their lives and these connections in the Amazon. So we looked for a partner who would understand about building material as a new type of product to be offered within our business. We didn't know anything about building materials, but then we connected, we invested on Hampar, a startup which is in this, works in this direction. And we have some other examples. Logistics, for example. Navegan is a partner as well. So when we wanted to deep dive into new strategies, we looked for someone who was a specialist in this theme. We have been working with that, but we understood that these expertises were important. So we also invested in Navegan. When we opened a shop in Altazes, there was no internet infrastructure. It was a city with 40,000 people. How can you make an operation work without powerful internet? So we had a partner, RV Connect. So we created then this model with them of investing so that they could take the internet there. We are not specialists in everything, but we can connect to partners which are in the ecosystem. And there are the entrepreneurs, yes, of course. What you have to do is find them, and then you have these phases, just like when you get married. First, you just woo the person, then you date the person, then you get engaged, and then you marry. It will take some time, but sometimes you have an urgent business. So this empathy, this connection, this alignment in terms of values is something that is super relevant when we consider investments. So within the Bemol pillars, we believe in sustainable development in the region, entrepreneurship. We look at the question of values, of resilience in terms of what the entrepreneur can do, and also synergy and transparency. So I think that the trust for the new projects to be launched or released, it is fundamental for a company who is 82 years old. We'll have to bet on someone who doesn't have such a long history, but has the expertise and has this eagerness to be an entrepreneur. So this kind of connections have been a challenge, but on the other hand, we have been finding great people, and this ecosystem has been multiplied, and I think new opportunities must appear in this way.
Crediário parceiro, estimulando pequenos empreendedores também a ter crédito e poder alavancar seus negócios. Então, tem uma série de oportunidades em cada área ligada à Bemol, que a gente tem olhado e procurado esses parceiros para avançar e poder construir e fortalecer o ecossistema.
Obrigado. A pergunta está aberta, gente. Quando eu vou falar com investidores, eles falam, captei meu fundo aqui, 100 milhões, 200 milhões, mas os empreendedores da região não são maduros o suficiente para nós aportarmos. E aí, quando a gente fala com os empreendedores, fala, pô, estou precisando aqui do dinheiro, não chega. E aí, qual que é? É empreendedor ou dinheiro que está faltando? Ou os dois?
Bom, um pouco dos dois. E aí, mas o que falta para mim, na essência, é esse olhar de empatia e inovação para a questão. Então, não adequar a Amazônia ao capital existente, e sim ajustar o capital ao projeto. Qual que é a necessidade do projeto e como que a gente busca soluções como essa? Eu acho que esse é o coração para acelerar o processo. Aí eu vou dar um exemplo, se permite, de você mesmo, assim, que impactou muito a gente. Eu acho que o exemplo ilustra forte, assim, dá um bom pano de fundo. Há 8 anos, a gente estava refazendo toda essa discussão do Fundo Vale, do posicionamento do Fundo Vale, de estar nesse lugar do meio do caminho, das conexões, das pontes. E a gente fez um painel, eu estava na plateia, você estava no painel junto com o Daniel Iso, da Vox. Foi uma das melhores discussões que eu participei, assim, foi um evento assim, transformador para o Fundo Vale, para quem estava lá, onde o debate era o Daniel Iso do capital e você das soluções financeiras. Então, a provocação sua para o Daniel era, bom, por que você não investe na Amazônia? E a provocação do Daniel para você era, pô, se você não está na Amazônia, por que você não coloca estruturas de capital? Bom, daí nasce a mais, daí nasce o nosso recurso de filantrópico acelerando soluções como essa. Então, quando eu falo da empatia e inovação, olhar para a solução, olhar para a questão territorial, olhar para os problemas que estão presentes e como que pode solucionar, e não tentar falar, ó, eu tenho essa minha caixinha aqui, seu projeto não se encaixa. A gente falta isso.
Não falta capital e não falta empreendedor. O que falta, talvez, seja o conhecimento e a vontade de se relacionar. Do ponto de vista do empreendedor,
maybe in a point of view of the entrepreneur,
pelos empreendedores amazônicos de
by
startup,
the
não
Amazon
confortável com
entrepreneurs
este
of
nome,
startups,
requer
sometimes they are not
protesto. Precisamos
comfortable
encontrar nome
with this name. We must
presente
find a
enquanto negócios
name,
amazônicos.
a
Startup
present
não
name
somos.
as
Aceitamos
startup.
porque não tem
It's not a good
melhor.
name.
Então, quem
We are
quiser
not
trabalhar
startups.
nesse nome, vamos
So if you
trabalhar
want to
junto,
find a better
tá?
name
Não
to
quero ser
define us, let's
unicórnio,
work
quero ser
together.
pirarucu.
I want to be,
Porque o
I don't want to be a
pirarucu é
unicorn, I want to be
ancestral, o
pirarucu, because the
pirarucu
pirarucu
é
is an
resiliente,
ancestry
o pirarucu
animal.
cresce
It's
devagar,
resilient.
mas
It grows
às vezes engolindo
slowly,
outros
but
peixes,
sometimes
mas porque é para a
swallowing other
sobrevivência dele,
small
né?
fish,
Mas
and
vive
because it's for
muito
its
e é
survivor,
referência
and it
histórica para
lives
gente.
long, and it's
E
a
aí,
historical
falta
reference
entender
to us.
o empreendedor
So it's lacking
aprender
to
a lidar com o
understand the
mercado de
entrepreneur
investimento.
to
Foi
deal
uma
with the
jornada que o Manioca
market.
teve, né?
It's
Não,
a
a gente
journey
não vai
that the
conseguir
Manioc
acessar o mercado se a gente
has
não entender
had.
algumas dinâmicas,
We're not
se
going
a
to
gente não
access
se
the
abrir
market
esse
if we
aprendizado
don't
na área
understand the
financeira, de
dynamics and we don't open
governança,
up
fazer alguns
to
esforços
the governance
burocráticos que
and
o empreendedor
bureaucratic
pequeno odeia,
efforts.
qualquer empreendedor odeia a burocracia,
Small
mas é necessário
entrepreneurs,
para
they
ter
hate bureaucracy,
transparência,
but
para
it's necessary.
dar confiança para o investidor. E do ponto de vista do investidor, que em geral é de fora, né? Existe todo um aprendizado sobre a dinâmica amazônica, né? Investir na Amazônia é fazer deep tech,
In the
né?
Amazon,
E não startup. Então, assim, eu acho que
it's a deep tech. It's not a
profundo,
startup. It's deep.
demorado, tem que ser
It
paciente.
takes
Então,
long. You have
se
to
não
be
houver essa
patient. So if
disponibilidade de
there
ambos
is
os
not
lados, não vai ter negócio.
such
A
availability
gente
from
tem uma
both
urgência
sides,
climática,
there
isso é um
won't be any
fato.
business. We
Mas a
have
gente não
climate
muda o mundo do
urgencies,
dia para
but we
noite,
are not going to
né? Então,
change
assim,
the
se a gente
world
não tentar se
in a day.
entender, tentar enxergar
If we don't
mecanismos
try
que
to
sejam
understand each
possíveis
other
para
and
ambos os
see
lados, e eventualmente
mechanisms
perder
that
dinheiro,
are possible and
vai
maybe even
acontecer.
lose some
Não vai
money,
acontecer o que a gente
that's
precisa
not
no
going to
território.
happen. That's not going to happen
E
what
eu
we
até
need.
escrevi recentemente um artigo
And I
sobre isso,
even
Mariano. Assim,
wrote
algo que eu tenho
recently an
participado de
article about
muitos
it.
espaços de
I've been
conversa
part
sobre a
of
Amazônia,
many
empreendedores na Amazônia,
conversations about
e
the
é uma
Amazon
angústia.
and
Acho que são duas angústias
entrepreneurship
hoje do
in the
mercado. É a
Amazon.
escala
These
e,
are the
né,
pains.
esse
It's
match que é
scale
difícil de acontecer.
and
Mas
the
eu sinto
match,
muito isso,
which
que
is
falta
difficult to
essa
happen. But I feel
disponibilidade,
that
né?
it's a
Acho
lack
que os
of
empreendedores estão fazendo,
availability.
do que eu
I think
acompanho, estão fazendo a sua
entrepreneurs are
jornada.
doing
Mas são mundos
their
muito,
journeys,
muito distantes. E não é
but
o
it's a
empreendedor
very
sozinho
distant
que vai
world. And it's
fazer,
not the
até porque
entrepreneur
nenhum
alone that's
casamento
going to
acontece se os
make
dois não
it.
quiserem,
No
né?
marriage happens
E
if both
aí,
people don't
deixo
want
aqui
it.
esse papo reto para os
And
investidores, né?
I
Quem
leave
está aqui
this
já tem alguma
thought here.
disponibilidade
If
de
you are
investir no
here
território,
now, maybe
mas
you
não
have
cheguem
some
com soluções
availability to
prontas.
invest in the
Construam,
territory,
estejam
but
abertos a
don't come up
inovar.
with
Porque esse
ready-made
modelo nem
solutions.
existe,
Let's
gente. Assim,
build
não é que a
together. Let's
Amazônia já tem um modelo.
innovate.
Não
It's
tem. A
not
gente
like
precisa
the
construir
Amazon
junto.
has got a
E acho que
model.
tem
We
já
have to build this
empreendedores
model
com uma
together. And I'm
maturidade para
sure
fazer isso, né? Que
there are
podem
entrepreneurs
servir
that are
de
mature enough to
modelo,
do that,
né? Para ser
to serve
testado
as
e a gente
models, to be
encontrar esse
tested,
modelo. Eu acredito
and
que ele
to
ainda não
find this
existe,
model.
mas se a
I
gente
believe it
tiver
doesn't exist
disponibilidade para
yet,
fazer
but if
junto,
we
a
have
gente vai chegar nele.
availability,
E
okay, we are going
ouso
to get
dizer, porque
there.
eu sou dessas, eu
And
acho que
I
a gente
dare
pode
to
criar
say that
modelos
we can create models that will be solutions for the world. The Amazon has bioactives that can be solutions for problems, and this model of investment can be too, and it must be used.
Mariana, queria aproveitar.
I would like to take this opportunity. Can you hear me? This contribution of Joanna to talk about
Eu acho que tem uma série de dificuldades de logística, distância, e muitas vezes o investidor, quando vem olhar para algo aqui, pede uma série de
come here.
informações e documentos.
They miss out on a lot of information and impact targets. So I think to look to have this empathy and to desire sustainable development is really important. We are a big company, but when we go through certification, and we had recently, we went through a process like that with a certificate company in the United States. We're looking at our company without understanding our reality, and it hurt because you are not understanding what we are telling you. We have drought, accessibility is difficult, logistics is complex, and life quality of people, level of education is low. So we cannot have the same metrics for what happens in the United States or in Europe and compare with the Amazon. You have to understand things here in a different way, and you have to have empathy. This kind of overlooking with empathy is really important. I'm gonna, you went deep, right? It's Daniel Iso and Daniel Brandão from Vox. They were in this debate. I was trying to capture investments for Café Puí, and as an entrepreneur, I kind of spoke my mind. Were you talking about investing in Rio, São Paulo, and why not here? And all the NGOs were on my side. We have to say the truth. We are acting where we can, because you don't create a fund. And we created this fund that is a mass. It came from this provocation. And now we have a major challenge to align expectations of risks and return of investors and banks, and how we can deliver that here, considering that businesses want to solve social problems, deep ones. And I ask you, how can we align these expectations? If you want, whoever wants to start talking about it, it's challenging, but it's also a journey. As it was mentioned in the panel, we have to do together to build together. One hypothesis we have been working on is that you must have a mixed capital. Where is philanthropy going to improve the impact and to add resources with market capital and hybrid solutions that will target return, and solutions of businesses that we can show governance, demonstrate governance, capitalism, etc. Today, I can see that there is a misunderstanding of this mixed capital. The market understands that, well, now I'm going to have a free capital to do what I was doing before. No, the philanthropic capital comes to adequate the reality of the project, and it changes throughout the project's life. So in my opinion, this is how we can connect and include risk return to impact, but we actually need a more flexible capital that will adequate to the project. And I'm going to give an example here. Terra, maybe you know, how was the journey? Model connection, the philanthropic capital exists to create the business and test the first models. The model Terra started to grow and show results. Then the philanthropic capital adapted to be adequate to this project and to have scale, to depend on the philanthropic capital. Maybe it can, as it's been growing, maybe it can even fund. And this is how we can balance risk and return. And I think the objectives, they are supposed to be really clear for the company and for the startups, or the new name that we are going to come up with today. These objectives, social environmental objectives, they must be really clear, and the KPIs also. How are we going to measure this impact? That must be clear and very well explained to everybody, especially for businesses. There are differences between philanthropy and the investment in sustainable businesses. We have the Ajinomoto Institute. We work with philanthropy, but also we have ideas of investing in social environmental businesses. And these are completely different things. In one, I need to generate return, and that must continue. If I just have capital coming out, leaving, that won't be sustainable. It has to be a win-win situation for the startup, the environment, and society. So all the KPIs, when they are well thought, they will help us to understand if we are going on the right pathway. I'd like to say that the questions are arriving now. If you want to ask a question, send it via our app. I'm going to address these questions soon. Talking about KPIs, is there something complicated in the current phase? We have never mentioned Amazon so much, and we have been following up the movement of major investment funds and banks. I have never seen so many ads. Like, we captured 200 million to invest in the Amazon, 500 million in climate solutions. I'm going to give you this question. Who captured money, investment? We have indicators of that. I can see funds and banks capturing a lot of money for that, but I want to know how can we do that? How can we increase the volume of investment, not only the capture of money? There is no easy question here. I agree with your ideas. We have to celebrate the capture of investment, but we have also to celebrate when this money comes out of the fund and goes to its final destination. I'm going to share something I noticed in this perspective. We were out of the company talking to a big bank, and I was trying to explain that we are using private capital as warranty to foster a development bank in the country. The counterpart didn't understand what I was talking about. How can we do that? If there is a foster line of credit and that demands 100% warranty, and it's not aligned with the objective it's being created in the first place, that's the objective. The same way where we have all this movement of this capital, they must be close to the investors and agents of transformation to be feasible. This is a very complex issue. As I said before, I hope the need of the capital to get to the end, the final destination, we have to fight for it. And we have to be an assurance line for subsidized line of capital. We must create cases, we must break these barriers and build together while it's polarized between polarized way places. Just repeating what I mentioned before, it's beautiful to work with the Amazon, but it's not easy. So if you only want to do greenwashing with the capital, you are in the wrong place. It's not going to happen. You are going to be frustrated, and only time will tell. So I think, in fact, to be able to act in this territory, it's a complex territory. But if there is something that the Amazon can teach to the world, is that simple solutions only destroy. And we've been destroying the environment, our environment. It's not very smart to do that. When we don't recognize the problem, okay, but if we understood and we have identified the problem, so we have to overcome that. If we want to keep doing the same things over and over, that's a little bit stupid. Okay, capture the Amazon is attracting investors, but we can find solutions. You can only do that understanding and having conversations about it. Someone from outside the Amazon asked, how can I not make a mistake? It's creating relationships. It's being humble, just like many entrepreneurs. I'm from Pará. I'm from the urban side of Pará. My second business was with Amazon, and I gave up of it 2 years ago, 2 years later, because I was ignorant enough. I didn't know the people from the Amazon, people from the forest. I tried to understand them for the Manioca to come back to understand the dynamics and how could I help this development. I don't like the word help, but to foster this development and bring entrepreneurs of the forest to the market. Our impact today is about giving support to our suppliers. So if we don't if we are not humble, if we are not creative, if we don't test and create and take risks, that's not going to happen. Yesterday in the panel, at the end of the day, we were talking about failure and learning from mistakes. And the question that the person asked you, it shouldn't be how can I make a mistake, or instead of how not to make a mistake. It's about energy, pharmacy, supermarkets. We are from the theory that you try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you try. New opportunities will come up. These attempts, and we must do the investments and believe. At Bemol, we have a solar power plant. We try to create a business model that it's not how we imagine, but the idea was to sell clean energy to our clients, and because of many reasons and bureaucracy, it wasn't the way we expected. We worked with oils, essential oils, and because of bureaucracy, we ended up removing that from our business. Other things came up. We started with pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, market. In the pandemic, we started selling the basic food basket, and it worked. There are many opportunities, and you have to try. You have to have courage to invest in the Amazon, because all the difficulties that Shuma even mentioned before. An example of what's happening here, this opportunity of people connecting and learning about difficulties and joys. Another relevant thing is that Mariano is a very good entrepreneur, and we had this opportunity to connect the Amazon within the Amazon. Now we can see an ecosystem between states interacting between each other. So there is a win-win situation here. People that have considered the Amazon as a cause with a more educational point of view and opportunities also. About climate emergencies, we don't have time to accept operate in a comfort. We cannot justify how risky it is to do something. The biggest risk we are facing now, drought and losses, fires, and in the end, the biggest risk we are facing is the mankind being extinct. And we don't consider that when we are analyzing investments between how can we speed up access to investments, Gustavo. The resources for riverines and sometimes it's centered in more structured organizations, but how can we actually make it happen, get to the end user more quickly? I don't have the pretension here of knowing the solution, but how can we operate? We can have a discussion. We are talking about scale here. Assuming that what brought us, it's not the best solution, what brought us here, what we can do differently. Our approach is to have the businesses we support via forestry ways. They are not a lot. We don't have scale. Our approach is to strengthen people in the end and then go to the end user, reach the end users. And my provocation is that if you look at the Amazon strategy, you have to strengthen what already exists. I like to see the Amazon as a whole, and we can see many discussions. People say, I want to have a project to call my own. There are many projects ongoing. If you want to start strategies, you don't have to think a lot. You have to have conversations with people. More capital, strengthening solutions that are already in place. That's the best way to approach less businesses and more focused capital and actually through the people that actually understands businesses, fostering more ideas. And we were going to have a final round to answer a question in less than 1 minute. We are going to be here in 2 years again. And what would you like to see in 2 years' time? In 1 minute, it's difficult to say. I want to see the application of these resources that have been captured and success cases being presented here, businesses that are growing, becoming mature. I'm an optimistic and I try to be realistic also. I can see a lot of evolution, Mariano. For those who we have been here for 6 years, maybe 10 as a business and 6 as impact investors, and we can see evolution happening. As Amazonian Raiz, it bothers me to speed up things a little bit, because I think sometimes if we speed up things, we don't do it properly. We have to be careful. We have to look to the sides. Mistakes are crucial. We don't learn without them. But that's going to happen. We're going to have mistakes, but we must be careful to make less mistakes. The intention. It's part of the game to make mistakes. We say that at Manioca, related to more invested businesses with partnerships, with listenings, with conversations. For more Manioca give Joanna a hand of applause.
Bom, eu gostaria de ver o botocórnio ou o pirarucu partindo
I would
de
like
uma
to see the botocornio or pirarucu being part of the indigenous community, or riverine with a new solution and being able to lever new businesses, foster new businesses. I would like to see the companies that are here today again next time, but in a more advanced, more structured, with scale, with more investment, then it would mean it was successful.
Eu celebro muito a gente falar de 8 anos atrás e tudo, mas eu gostaria de
I always mention 8 years ago, but the next I would like to have new leaderships with local representativity, being sitting here from the Amazon, sitting here and telling their stories.
Já que você fez uma pergunta fora do coisa, eu devolvo uma. A gente tem a alegria de ter apoiado.
We had the joy of supporting a magazine about the Amazon.
Minha proposta é que a gente consiga fazer.
And my proposal is that we can actually make a reference to systemic evolution and support whole edition of FIINSA with the evolution of this edition 26, 27, 28, and up to 2030.
É isso. Muito obrigado a vocês todos por terem
That's it.
vindo.
Thank you so much.
Encerramos aqui nosso painel.
And we close our panel now.
Muito obrigada aos painelistas.
Thank you so much to all panelists. Thank you for being here, for having used the time well. Congratulations, Mariano, conducting this panel. You managed to not delay anything. Wonderful. That's how we like it. Thank you for sharing, for so many wonderful speeches.
E agora teremos o segundo painel.
Now we have the second panel,
Repensando a lógica dos investimentos
rethinking about the logic of impact investments.
de milhões. Marcos Bessa, do Impact Hub.
Bom dia, bom dia. Depois desse painel.
Good morning, everyone. After this panel, it will be a bit hard to keep this energy. I would like to invite the people who are going to build this dialogue with us. Maria Laura, please welcome onto the stage.
Felipe, Russo, por favor.
Felipe Russo, please.
Valmir Ortega.
Valmir Ortega.
E o Roberto.
And Roberto.
Alô? Alô?
Seja bem-vindo. Obrigado. Bom dia. Primeiro, obrigado.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for being here with us. Like we said, we will think about how to rethink impact investments. But before we start this theme, I would like you to introduce yourselves to this audience so that they know who you are, so that we can build this discussion together. Maria Laura. Can you hear me? Okay, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I am Maria Laura. Due to my accent, you should know that I am from São Paulo. It's been a long while I haven't lived there. I lived in Roraima, now I live in Belém, in Pará. I read business administration. I've always worked with finances, but The first part of my career were corporate finances, and the second part, you can imagine what happened. They introduced me to impact investments world, and that's where I act now. Andrea Rezende is my partner. I co-leader the Biodiversity Fund for the Amazon. Thank you for bringing a little bit about us. This is a 250 million reais fund. We have about 100 million which have been invested already, and we have 8 organizations within these 100 millions with 5 partners who are also here. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Felipe, fala pouco.
Felipe, tell us what brings you here. Okay, I am Felipe. I would like to thank you for the invitation. I feel honored to be sitting here among so many incredible people, which for us are the people that we listen to do what we do. So I'm really glad to be here. I am a biologist, and I'm an artist as well, a university professor, but I am also a co-founder of a family office, Meraki Impacts. It is an office that looks for 100% alignment with impact investments. So what we heard before, we have been trying to do, what we heard in the previous panel, we are always questioning ourselves about the relations between risk and return, but we understand that risk is not to make this impact investments. The risk is in continuing doing what we are doing without caring about it. And for investments, we have a philanthropic capital as well. Institute Meraki, where we do structuring reports for organizations of community basis.
Valmir.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. It's a pleasure to be here once again. We have been following them. I'm Valmir Ortega. I have worked for many years in different governments. I'm from Mato Grosso do Sul. I started in the public sector. Then I worked for Ibama in Brasilia, and I was a Secretary of State in Pará. There was a lot of learning looking at the public sector, but always having as a challenge to connect political development and investments. This is what I've been able to do. I led the foundations of 3 organizations, Connexus. It is a social organization looking at the challenge to generate income to communities who live in the forest and help preserve it. So Connexus, I'm still in its council, but Connexus has their own team now and they're growing. And after that, I founded a Belterra, a forest restoration company, and a new company, which is a kind of a spin-off, which is Rio Capim. Maybe they look at the biggest challenge, which is to face the challenge of livestock in the Amazon, and we have to Belterra and Rio Capim work together in order to be able to recover degraded land and diversifying the economy of those agriculturalists, and Rio Capim revitalizing the pastoral services, livestock services. So we are developing new businesses, linking both. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roberto from Tumbira community. We are part of the Rio Negro Reserve. I am a Caboclo Ribeirinho. I am a community leader there, and I am an entrepreneur as well. I lead Pousada do Garrido, which is like a bed and breakfast, and 7 community homes which receive visitors. I am here for the first time, and I'm very optimistic to be talking, to get closer to the investors which have been talked about, which are far from us, who are in the community. We actually do everything on our own. We have been entrepreneurs since 2011, but there are a lot of difficulties. Our work, looking at many big companies, it's a small work, but very important to keep the forest alive and to give quality of life to those who live in the forest.
Muito bom, pegando esse gancho,
Okay, so
o Roberto trouxe aqui, queria fazer
to
uso
build
de
on what
três falas de
Roberto
ontem,
said
algumas
here,
delas que foram bem significativas. A primeira da Wanda,
the Vanda said that
não tenham medo de investir
don't
nós.
be afraid of
Acho que isso é uma frase
investing
bem
in
forte pra
us.
gente pensar, mais nesse lugar de investimento e fazer com que esse investimento
We
chegue.
have to make this investment come to us. And the second saying was Ellen's from BIDs saying that we need to have ecosystemic investments. And Joanna, that has just left the stage today, she says, what is missing is not money or businesses, it is the relations between the two. So I would like us to think about this logic of impact investment. And here we have a group launching the first question here so that you can discuss. We have two businesses. Roberto has just said that he's been working for 11 years and he has never accessed these investments. So Roberto, if you have ever accessed an investment, and what kind of investment, what kind of difficulty did you have? And bring in a little bit about your scenario. How important or is this investment to you? We are going through a historical drought and your business will probably not operate for the next 4 months. So have you ever used financing help and financial help? I'm sorry. And what was the logic behind it? Okay, like I said, I work with tourism. This activity always needs to renewing logistically, the rooms, restaurants. I've had an investment. 3 years ago, I had one, but it was a very small volume for the development that we needed. So our difficulty is very high when we talk about climate changes because these problems have been worsening every year and we need to have some support to be able to cover up for the needs. For example, we can't work for a few months sometimes. This year this happened again. So we are uncovered, let's say, when there is no planning and when there is no investment to cover this time when we cannot work due to the climate change. There is no subsidy coming from government organizations or even the private sector to support the small entrepreneur to keep making ends meet when there is no work. So we keep going on our own. It's different a little bit from the community. Our entrepreneur generates incomes to 25 people. These 25 people have their own families who live on this money. And when you don't have money for 3 months, the person who lives from what we can pay them, they are somehow put in a difficult situation, and so are we. And the self-esteem becomes very low. So we need more support to be able to keep this activity alive and keep growing, keep helping to grow the sustainability within the community. The forest has everything to give us, but we have to know how to use it in a sustainable way. Until 2010, I was a woodcutter. Many people know that. So I used to live on the forest in a different way, but now I am inside the forest looking at it in a different way. This activity has changed everything in my life. What I used to see before, I don't see it now, but I see a future for that if there is an investment for those at the end point there. Participating in this event, I see many things that haven't reached us there, and we needed to get to us there because our hope is to see what we can do with your help. We're not talking about millions. I need now, for example, I can't have, I don't need millions, but I don't need only 10,000, for example. So I need some amount that can help us, first of all, know how to use, and then for us not to be a stone in someone else's shoes. We don't want that. We want to grow along with someone. Our work for many people is small, but it is fundamental to keep these families there and to keep the forest alive. So that's it. That's about it.
E aí, nesse mesmo comparativo,
And
queria
then,
trazer o Valmir aqui para essa discussão.
I would like to bring Valmir to this discussion to say what kinds of investments have you accessed, what are the mechanisms, and what were the adaptations that you had to do to access them. Okay, Gustavo has already told you a little about the trajectory of our relationship with Fundo Vale. Belterra was born as a company within the challenges that we co-built of giving a solution of how Vale could reach the target of the number of hectares that they self-imposed themselves. So we participated in the model, and then we were challenged. Since we helped build the model, we were challenged to prove that it worked. So we had the privilege and opportunity of accessing an initial process with the partnership with Fundo Vale. This was the first type of income that came in, just like a grant, without having to hire debt, which is the reality of a lot of startups. They dilute their participation in the equity as well. No, we had the possibility of creating Belterra in a unique opportunity, a big contract for a startup, but it started being an income type of contract. And the challenge was Fundo Vale was going to make the investment, but they will offer only half the resource to implement that, because we agreed to face the challenge of actually creating a business, not just doing a philanthropic project or a project that would depend on philanthropy. So Fundo Vale started with half the capital, but then we had the challenge to capture the other half. And we had 2 investment rounds, which created for us a need to find extra capital. It took 2 years for us to be able to capture. We had an emission of a certificate that we structured with AGN Investment. Santander was the liquidizer there. So it was 17 million reais investment and 7 million to finance 28 cooperatives, which were supported by Conexus Belterra, because it is a receivable of 17. It's a small CRA, but we learned a lot in that process in terms of financial innovation, what was the correct format to be able to build that vehicle. We combined resources from philanthropic origin and Goldeners Foundation and Conexus. And we gathered all this, let's say, these funds and these captures that we managed to get to compose the first tool that we had. In the last few years, we have been co-building with the Fundo Vale, FIAGRO, which is a fund exclusive for Belterra. And once again, it combines what we call blend finance. Once again, it's been apported by Fundo Vale. That is a mezzanino quota, which is a middle term one, which buys part of the risk. And we are going through a very good development phase with BNDES. And then we have the private sector financing. We have a guarantee mechanism. So there was a lot of learning in terms of financial structure. Our journey in the last few years was both to learn how to plant trees as well as the journey of learning to structure capital. And I think we have a lesson to learn and to teach there. Sometimes we place ourselves in a position of saying, I have to do what I do well, I have to know how to do. But the Joanna has shown that we have to learn about capital structure, we have to learn how to model finance solutions so that we can adapt the capitals to our needs. Because there won't be investors from São Paulo, from Faria Lima, who will teach us. No, we have to teach the banks there how to invest here. We have been doing this journey. So nowadays we have an exclusive fund of investment, Fiagro, 130 million. We have done operations, investment operations with corporations. We had a fund capture with Cargill. It's a cocoa purchaser, and once again, a very innovative mechanism with three types of money. Money from Cargill Bank, common loan, the one which was a barter market, a barter operation. We exchanged cocoa that will deliver in 5 years by materials that will come in now, and a Traverde, which is a certificate, which is a paying for ecological restoration. So we combined money from Traverde with receivables and bank loans. We had to propose this solution, co-build this solution, because they had never done something like that before. So it's up to us entrepreneurs as well to face the journey of developing the structure of capital and build solutions that will be adequate to our businesses, because no one understands better about our businesses than ourselves. So we have to be part of this process. Okay. Looking back, looking to the other side of the bridge, let's connect with those who have the money in their hands. So, Maria Laura, what is the decision for investment and why? Where is this money going to and why? Thank you, Marcos. Okay, just try to bring it in a kind of language that anyone can understand. The Biodiversity Fund in the Amazon works with mezzanine financing. We're not talking about 100% capital. We try to structure something in between. And we have been learning a lot. We invest in Belterra as well, and Valmir is an investor as well. So for us to understand why we choose this kind of instrument, we can divide that and explain the debt and the capital. When we think about the capital, this is very interesting. We are playing a game together, but we can dilute the businesses as well. So we have to remember that these businesses, after a while, they will need to capture again capital. So we want to avoid to the extreme that they are too diluted. So capital is good, but we have to be careful. When we talk about that, it can be scary. There are entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. When you hear that, they don't like it because it's really difficult to manage that. There is a fixed chronogram for payment, that are interest rates. So we try to work in between these two worlds. We have some investments which we understand the return as carbon or in profit participation. And it's like Joanna said, we learn together. So we try to structure ABF like this And there are other guarantee structures that allow us to, let's say, help more. We have a junior investor, and we have the DFC, which is bringing some protection to us after the losses through the junior investor. So what we do there, this is a little, our investment ticket is a little higher. We check some funds, but we try to work with something in between 10 and 20 million reais. But we will talk a little bit more about how we can reach the people who are at the edge. It's not because we have just a high ticket that we can't understand the impact that it has on those who are doing the work at the edge there, at the end. Thank you. Felipe, what about you? You said at the beginning that you have a more structuring kind of thought. So what is the resource that you are sending in the institute, in Medicaid, in the institute? Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. We started our journey by the investment. So we start in this transition, trying to understand the impact investment. And we were frustrated many times. We had the venture capital funds, and there is an infrastructure that continues to be a capital concentrator, let's say. Then we said, no, this mechanism has their own problems, what kind of entrepreneurs. Then we went on to mezzanine with these more complex structures. Then we looked at credit. Then we looked at the relationship between impact and return, trying to get more subsidized credit. But then the philanthropic action, I think, should be brought as well. There was a moment when, due to this frustration with investment, we decided that we needed to have a more structuring philanthropic capital. And the first thing that came to my mind, Felipe, Paulista, how am I going to think that within the complexity? And we don't work only with the Amazon, we have a multi-biome. We are also in São Paulo, we have Mata Atlântica there, we have our indigenous tribes there too. But the first thing that we did was to do a deep journey of listening. And in a year, I think I had more than 70 meetings just listening, financiers, investors. And I also listened to the leaderships from Coiabe, Podaco, Fundo Podale. I started getting into the independent philanthropic funds, territorial funds, which are structuring mechanisms to get the money to reach the communities. With the look that it is structuring from the point of view that, okay, it has business in mind, but they understand that these businesses are inserted in a complexity context, a life complexity context, which is much bigger than just a business. Many times the business in this community is part of a much more ample, wide, such as access to education, autonomous education, access to the possibility of expressing and valuing their beliefs, the cosmovision of these peoples. So we start bringing philanthropic capital to these communities. We are a family office, we are small, we understand the importance of blended finance structure, but we thought that we could have a structure of little supports that could reach effectively the edge, buying material, for example. So just to give you a concrete example, the first action that we did was people from Fundo Casa, Social Environment Fund, and we brought into the discussion the collaborative philanthropy. We see in this universe a lot of collaboration. And we got into a structure which is an alliance among funds. That is a collaborative structure between a human rights fund, a social equity fund, and an environmental one. They were trying to claim that they were trying to recover businesses of Quilombola community post-COVID because they hadn't had any support to COVID. They had zero capital in those territories. So they had received some support of the Inter-American Foundation for the money that would go to the territory, but this capital is marked. There are many rules to that. And then we could add capital to that, to this action, giving freedom for the funds to take more capacitating courses to them, taking media information to the associations. Many times we are fomenting support which have to do with this association. Sometimes it's the first support that they are giving. Sometimes it's support just to be able to formalize this connection between the different associations and funds. And for us as investor, it is a gigantic journey, learning journey, because we go to a place of relationship in which talks like this one and from leaders, this thing that Roberto brought today, this reaches us all the time, okay? I'm having this talk all this time. So another territory, the climatic emergency, within this relationship with funds, we supported the territory that in the same year needed emergency capital for a flood and for a drought in the same year. So, sorry, my time's up, but just to give you an idea, just a message, the questions you can send them through the board in the app. It's called Mural in Portuguese, M-U-R-A-L. Okay, we did that bridge. Those who need the money and those who have the resource and how they can make this resource accessible. I think we need to deep dive into how businesses are structured on this side of the ending, but it is a structure which is unjust, let's say, when we talk about the different types of businesses that we have here. We are talking about all the business as a structured business, but if we take into account most of the businesses, they don't have their own structure to be able to give this support so that they can propose this structure. And I'm going to, we need a bigger context from Roberto. How can this structure be built for smaller businesses? I always hear you say they talk a lot of money to the Amazon, 200 million, but this money is not getting here. What are the obstacles that you see from your point of view, from the type of business and the place and the size of businesses that you have? Why isn't this money getting here?
Então,
Well,
uma bela pergunta e difícil
it's
também.
a good question and difficult to answer. There are many reasons. There's a lot of bureaucracy for us to have access to investment. When you talk about entrepreneurs in community, it's much more difficult than being in a city anywhere in the Amazon. You see the state of the Amazon, there are many municipalities, faraway municipalities, and these municipalities have fewer chances of getting a project than those who are near Manaus. In communities, this is how it goes. In Rio Negro, for example, you have to access some areas by the river. So there is no zip code. You don't get mail. You don't get mail from anyone. So you have a big difference in terms of adaptation so that these things can be seen differently. In our community,
por falta de alguma coisa para fazer para ganhar dinheiro.
we didn't really know in the beginning what to do to make money, so I worked for a while with wood cutting, and then I thought it would be a good alternative, this new kind of work. An example that I'm trying to give is every time the year passes, the business is getting a little more mature, we have a better scale. For example, talking about education, you start being educated as a kid, and then you start learning different things, different disciplines, and then you start improving. The entrepreneur is like that as well. When we think of a community, I started in 2011, only my family, and with 1 or 2 years, I was being able to get more people from the community. When I started, we hardly had anything. I invested with my own resources in boats, and then
Quando eu comecei a trabalhar com turismo, eu pensei que só era ter o quarto, a caminha ali, já ia
when I
acontecer.
started working with tourism, I thought I needed to have just a bedroom and a bed.
E acompanhando as coisas para não ficar.
But then you have to follow what's
A gente
going
tem uma
on.
dificuldade muito grande.
We have a difficulty to be able to pass it on, this information, to investors. Those who know the Tumbira community and Mivilar, it is totally different from those who don't know it. You can see my work there.
Mariano foi lá no começo da seca, né, Mariano? Já estava seco. Se você for lá, totalmente diferente. Então, essa realidade.
If you go there, this reality with investors, it's something you are supposed to. There are 3 or 4 modifications of everything: temperature, drought, flood, rain. So if you don't know about those things, you're not going to be able to handle. So investors and entrepreneurs, there is no lack of entrepreneurs wishing to change things. I'm very happy to see here in my name tag.
É muito mais fácil, por exemplo, tem muita gente discussando bonito.
Things. A lot of people say beautiful things, it's just a beautiful speech. If you don't have an action.
E dar referência, ó, por exemplo, lá na comunidade, o Roberto está fazendo isso, vou chegar por perto dele.
For example, Roberto is doing that, and I'm going to go there and check what he's doing. Lots of people wanted to see what I was doing, and then I invested because I saw people wanting to work, and we are optimistic that in spite of the drought, next year we are going to have more visitors in the new years also. It's difficult to understand things without knowledge. We need, for example, and I would like to invite, if I could, 5 investors that are here, if it's possible, to go to communities in the dry areas, to understand mud, temperature, etc. Only if you check this reality, you will be able to change. You will be able to see that people are being entrepreneurs regardless. If there is a dialogue, we can build all together.
Obrigado, Roberto. Valmir, você falou dessa estrutura para adaptar e para a gente
you mentioned the structure to adapt and to propose for the funds. You are sitting on 2 chairs. You are investor and entrepreneur. If you look at small businesses, what were the adaptations from the investor side? So the resources could reach these businesses. You didn't wait for those businesses to adapt or propose. Talking about the journey of Conexus, it's an NGO, it's very different since the beginning, because the focus of Conexus is how do we impact the socio-economical reality of communities. We have a side that works with rights, land rights and everything, but we understood that to increasing the capacity of income generation, it was the fragile side of communities that the NGOs were not dealing in its full potential. As an intermediate organization, a connection between parts, since the beginning, we wanted to have our own investment fund to fill up the gaps where the banks don't reach. When we created this organization, we had with Connex, we are in the middle of the journey. We can increase our capacity to allocate, to capture capital, etc. We like to support collective businesses. For Conexo, it's difficult to get to individual entrepreneurs such as Roberto, for example. The format we can do is to get to the cooperative where we have integrated producers, and from that we can reach out 200 up to 2,000 farmers. I was visiting a cooperative in Tucumã in the south of Pará, COEX, and we did a first operation of Conexus there, 80,000 reais. They needed 80,000 reais of working capital when we landed the money. We never just give the money. We give supervision and support. We gave 8,000, 250,000, and at the third operation was almost 2 million reais. And all of them were paid regularly. Together with the money, we gave the capacity to manage this money to grow. And our challenge today is to increase that. At Belterra and Rio Capim, even though we have a rural partnership with the producers, it's also a way to co-invest with producers. We are working with the Banco do Brasil Bank and the Amazon Bank. We are capturing expensive money. One producer, individual producer, can capture 4.5%, but it's almost impossible for the person to do that alone with cocoa or cattle farming. If it's for regenerative farming, bank doesn't believe, the bank doesn't understand, so we are trying to educate them. Otherwise, they won't lend us money for regenerative businesses. Next week, we are taking 40 managers of Banco do Brasil in Camamu, in Bahia, to know a cocoa forest system in Bahia. They are going there to see and to understand that how because sometimes they don't want to finance this type of production. Sometimes they finance low quality cattle farming to buy cattle. It's low productivity and low profitability. And then they don't want to finance cocoa systems because they don't understand. This is why we want to show them. We have to overcome this barrier of educating funding and financiers. In a way, we have to capitalize this investment for these producers.
Esse ponto é bem importante que você trouxe.
This is really important what you mentioned, how we can capitalize, because we can work with cooperatives and associations. Sometimes we have the small businesses that are not linked to any of these bodies, but they need these resources. And I will ask this question for Lauren, that of high ticket and ideas on how this ticket can get to the end user. What is important in your decision of on how to invest, on who to invest, or on how? How can you decide? Far away from trying to simplify a very complex question such as this one, but when we are talking about impact investments, we are talking about businesses, projects, we are talking about two aspects, the financial and the impact. Within the financial, we have risk and return, and we have that within the impact also. And these two things, they must work together. Sometimes the impact is going to come before the financial. But we must try to work together with those two variables at once. And my understanding of impact, the understanding of impact is different from everybody. But the way we look at it within the fund for impact, we think about the addition of the fund for the benefits for the market in general. It would be new projects, new ideas, new ways of solving problems that already exist. But the fund for the business is how we can find the gaps of investment and try to be there. That's not very simple. So I think your second question on how we can try to bring more resources for the end, it's related to the structure of the investments. There are many types of answer. We could answer in many different ways, but we can think on the direct and indirect impact in a project, and the fund must be designed. We need, in a way, when we are making our investments, to understand who is the person that's going to be in the end. Is this a direct or indirect impact? And the indicators, I don't know if Juliana mentioned that before. Indicators are really important to measure if we are on the right pathway or not. When we monitor what we are doing, we measure it. If we measure it, we know and understand if we are on the right pathway. And we can support entrepreneurs to change direction. The example of Manioca, I'm using you for everything. Manioca buys manioc from small producers. We invest in it, but manioc must buy from small producers. We have many indicators, but one of them is you must buy X% from small producers. If we monitor for a while, we can check if that's happening or not. And if they are not, we will try to understand how to make it happen. So the structure of the investment is really important, and the way we are going to monitor that also, with a lot of respect and patience, guaranteeing that we understand about it. This is why we came to Belém, if we understand the territory, the land, to... It's not an easy answer. Talking to other funds, we can find these answers, but it's a little bit on how we structure that. And then about risks, Felipe said the investment, structure investment, to mitigate risks of investment. If you talk a little bit about how can you see this structured investment to be more capitalized, how we can reach more places? One way, people bringing again something that Roberto said before, to put yourself in a place where where you decide to put yourself to get closer to that, to divide the power of decision of processes for to where this money is going and how this money is going to this place. When we establish relationships with philanthropic funds, independent ones and territorial ones, they are governance structures where you have people from the community in the councils or in decision positions. They are structures built to try to find this way of reaching people. We understood that for us to do it alone would be very difficult to far reach. For more that I try to travel and visit and learn about the communities, there are people that live there and they can make decisions in a much better way than myself. So we establish relationships of building things together. When I get to a tema fund, for example, which was in a process of alliance between community territorial funds in the Amazon, I'm not going to get to this fund saying, you are going to do this, this, and that with the money. I'm going to ask this person, what do you think we should do with the money? If you have a structure of financing, sometimes it needs a capital to unlock a certain relationship. Can I add to that? This is something we have tried to do, we also try to, we are also a partner of EcoOne and other programs. And this thing about, again, we have a very privileged place as being a family business. We can take risks. We don't worry about so much about reputational risks. We have political positioning. I have political views of what world I want to live in with social justice, and sometimes family offices, maybe family offices don't even exist anymore. Social movements and impact businesses, all of that. They are engines to help us ask ourselves, to wonder. And it's a privilege to be an investor. So when I am accessing all this effort that entrepreneurs like you guys are doing, how can I get this return that's going to come to me and give it back in a more fair way? We have been thinking about on what tools to use. And we also have to look at another example that I'm going to bring. It's not from the Amazon, but it's very vivid to me because the federal government was approving, homologating 7 indigenous pieces of land, and one of them is Jaraguá within the city. And it's the 3rd year in a row that we have been supporting the Guarani Commission, the mother organization of the Guarani people. Almir Surui also said that the plan of the life plan of the Surui people is something we support. We are not giving support alone. We are not alone in this. Maybe collective arrangements are important. We are always giving donations in groups. We try to find groups of donors that are building arrangements, more innovative ones. Sometimes we have foundations with lots of rules to access funds, and some others have free access to the capital. And then us, as a family business or family office, I can have processes with less bureaucracy. I don't need to ask permission. And again, I'm not doing that alone. I'm doing that together with philanthropic funds that can actually even put money on natural people's hands, on people's hands. I'm not going to do that. Maybe my investment committee,
Assim, se eu dizer assim, pô, eu estou investindo lá para tirar uma
if I
liderança
say
do
I'm
território que ela está sendo
investing
ameaçada de morte e a gente pagou
to remove a
a gente
leadership
não, né? O
from
fundo
a piece of land because this person is being
foi
threatened,
lá, construiu uma relação com essa liderança
we
e
built
pagou para ela ir embora do território,
with this
pagou ticket,
person, and we
mandou um
paid
motorista
this
lá,
person
né?
to this
A agência
person
pode
leave
fazer isso
to save
através
her
dessas
life.
pontes.
We can
E a
only do
gente só
that
pode
through these
fazer isso se a gente
bridges. We can only do those
perguntar
things
o
if
que a
we
gente precisa
ask,
fazer.
what
Isso, a primeira coisa que eu,
can we
como
do?
doador,
This
Paulo
is the
Bispo de
first
São
thing
Paulo,
that
né, que
I do as a donor.
mesmo que
I
eu tenha
ask,
experiência de vida, né, eu
even though I
não
have
virei,
life
vivi numa bolha.
experience,
Eu viajo pelo
I'm not
Brasil,
living in a
eu amo esse
bubble.
país,
I
é a minha casa,
travel around Brazil. I
mas
love
eu
this country.
preciso
It's my
perguntar.
home. But I have to ask. I have to ask.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
Estamos caminhando aqui para o final. E aí eu queria deixar
Now we are going
vocês já podem
towards
também
the end
colocar
now.
as
And I
palavras
would like
finais
to
de
leave a
vocês. A gente
question.
começou
You
isso no
can
painel trazendo
give your final
contexto,
words.
depois
We
essa
started the panel
desconexão
bringing a little bit of the
recursos
context,
o
and then we
acesso a
have
esse recurso,
disconnections
com alguns
after
possíveis
between
caminhos aqui
access
fora
and
do
the
Brasil.
resources and
Mas queria
access
que
to these
vocês, eu vou
resources.
começar com você, Maria
This
Paula,
is why I
trouxessem
would
quais são as
like you
perspectivas de investimento que você
to
enxerga
bring the
e as suas palavras
perspectives of investments and that you see, you understand in your final words. Is it working? We have seen many announcements, and with copy, we are going to see even more, but there is a big distance between announcements and implementation of ideas or funds that have been structured but not implemented in practice in real life. I say that because there is an aversion to risk. Impact businesses, they are trying to do the structure in a very traditional way, and we are not going to be able to implement anything if we see the structure of these businesses this way. This is why we must embrace uncertainties. Sometimes we forget there is a universal law controlling everything, and we are not going to be able to control anything. We must understand that, even to diminish risks, because from when we look at a business, an impact business in the Amazon, and we try to structure this investment in a very traditional way, we are going to increase risks. You're not going to be able, as an investor. Sorry, it's cutting, it's breaking. Tools and processes. We have to implement tools and processes that are going to mitigate this risk. Hello, so it's really important that we as investors, we invite other funds and investors to do the same uncertainties. It exists and we cannot leave it behind. And it's funny because some traditional funds can even think, this is really, really risky and it's not scalable. But it's because you are using the traditional logics. The scale is there. It is going to happen. We have that in a portfolio. We did a pilot, we tested in 10 acres, and then we went to 100 and then to 1,000, and it's working. All you have to do is to be patient. So the message I would like to give here is to invite investors and funds to exchange ideas, to learn together, to give up the need to control everything.
E aí, em tempo recorde, aqui eu não olhando no relógio.
In record time.
Quais são as perspectivas que você enxerga?
Felipe, what are the perspectives you see in your final words?
Não? Ah, agora veio. Bom, bom, a gente está numa situação assim
We are in
desafiadora.
this situation, a challenging one.
Foi fazendo e a gente está num lugar agora de muito alocado. Assim, a gente está
We were doing a lot now, and we are in a place where we have to wait for resources because we allocated 10, 12, 15 years. Now we are waiting for things to happen. So we are going to through a journey of learning. Philanthropic capital, we are still allocating it every year, but we are going to a learning journey as investors. It's been really interesting to us, the mechanisms of structure of governance of companies to check the purpose governance. We just did an investment at Amazon Mana. It's the first direct we did from the relationship with Amas. And what was interesting for us in that was the equity for the community. So we thought someone is thinking about an equity structure for the community. And that for us was a really cool thing, something where we thought we should learn from. And we are also coming closer to stewardship, building governance, to separate decisions of capital from the purpose of the company, try to protect the purpose of the company. This is something we are really interested in. And we continue, apart from the capital investments, we are thinking, how can we add to the social capital, being together, learning from it, building things together, exchanging ideas, and helping entrepreneurs how to access other financiers. And that's it. Other sponsors. We are open to have conversations, to talk to other investors, to show our portfolio. We are very open to exchanging ideas, and entrepreneurs also. We build many bridges between us and investors, other investors. I don't know if I answered your question. Yes, you did really well. Valmir, your final words. I think it's a very quick testimonial. When we decided to open the captation of equity of Rio Eco, we have 3 fronts to capture money, different ones. And probably we spoke to over 30 investment funds, almost all of them national, some international, equity funds, etc. And something I noticed, and it's my testimonial, I have never seen so many offers of capital, so many people interested in investing, investment funds, and from companies, development banks. I know a lot about investment banks, and it has got a great internal dynamics. There is an alliance between the Pan-Amazonic banks, the BNDES is trying to reinvent itself. These are public banks. They have a time and a dynamics to follow, to change, but you can actually testimony the will to be faster and to give money to the end user. And in the philanthropic world, I am part of some of the NGOs councils, and they are some of them are capturing investments in 100 million reais. That was unimaginable 5 years ago. And this is happening now, and it's happening because we have donors with bigger capacity to donate money, ambition of transformation. It's difficult So to build this, it's a challenge as an ecosystem, how we can create bigger structures. And maybe the challenge for the next FIINSA, I would like to see a combo of funds operated by a mass, a vertical, Conexus, Next, and Citaui operating vertically, credit for community businesses. And then on top of it, we would have 500 million reais, a major volume of resources. None of us alone will be able to do that. We have to make alliances and capture this money. And then on the side of the private funds, investments, we must learn faster from each other. I can see Johannes and Ox here, people from Amazon agroforestry. We have Coratella from Rio Terra. It doesn't make any sense. Rio Terra is dealing with cocoa. There is no point in from them suffering to learn things about cocoa, and we are trying to learn also, trying to understand systems and plantations. We should learn together because the time demands and the urgencies they are demanding. They are telling us to learn faster and to be able to create a system that will bring more resources to the territory, and it will bring more systemic, scalable solutions. I have never seen such favorable moment as this one. Next year, COP is going to be in an amazing shop window. People will see us. The world has to understand us, and we must be the spokespeople for the world about it.
Roberto, para você a pergunta vai ser diferente.
Roberto, for you the question is going to be different. What do you expect the funds, the networks, change perspective to have access to investment? Our biggest challenge is to make things happen. We are going to leave this event and make sure that the money gets to the end. We are going to have this event in 2 years' time. I hope the narrative of the seed that has been planted here is already evolved. I believe that every single community has an entrepreneur that wants to work properly, that wants to be a reference, wants to improve the quality of life of people, to have a living, complete biome. So when I want us to live here and make things happen. All entrepreneurs, they need the opportunity. And it's about time that we have this narrative of prosperity, that in the next event, we are going to have testimonials about how difficult things were, but how we got where we wanted to be. If we have more investment, we can go even further. Thank you.
Obrigado. Vamos levantar para tirar uma foto.
Thank you. Let's just get up for a picture.
Muito obrigada, Marcos, por essa moderação incrível. Obrigada aos nossos painelistas. Calma, pessoal, não vão embora não, que a gente ainda tem o último painel agora da manhã.
Wait for the final panel for this morning. We still have one panel today. Lunch will be served after the panel.
E agora eu gostaria de...
I would like to call panel 3, entitled Innovative Connections, Building Prosperous Relationships Between Companies and Communities in the Countryside of Amazonas, To moderate this panel, I invite Juliana Dib.
Bom dia,
Good
pessoal.
morning, everyone. Are you all doing well?
Quero convidar
I would like to invite the panelists here onto the stage,
por
please.
favor,
Bia,
Aline,
Aline,
Carol,
Carol,
seu Adevaldo.
Mr. Adevaldo.
Cadê o seu Adevaldo? Tá
Where
aí,
is Mr.
chega mais.
Adevaldo? Yes,
Tá
please
todo mundo
come here.
confortável, pessoal? Sei,
Mr.
ó,
Adevaldo,
almoço tá
are
aí,
you
já tá
all
chegando.
comfortable?
Agora a gente vai conversar,
We will have lunch
né,
soon, but
pessoal?
now
Atividade. E vamos ter
we'll
convidado
be
especial
talking
também,
about
seu Raimundo,
Mr.
direto da comunidade,
Raimundo,
direto do
directly
território.
from the
Bem-vindo,
community,
Raimundo.
from
Estamos
his
aqui te
territory.
vendo com
Welcome,
muita
Mr.
felicidade,
Raimundo.
muita
We
honra.
can see you. It's an honor
Então,
to have you here. Thank you.
olá.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Primeiro eu quero deixar registrado
First
aqui minha
of
gratidão
all,
e a honra de
I'd like to say that it is an honor to be talking to you.
muito grande.
It is, I'm truly honored. I'm Juliana. I am here representing Connection Peoples from the Forest Network to connect all the communities in the Amazon. And I'd like to start by improvising. I'd like you to say your names, your territory, your institution. What is the mission behind your institution in the communities? And I would also like you to tell us, since we are talking about innovative connections and we are talking about relationships with communities, what is a meaningful connection for you? What is that? To connect from a meaningful place with the communities. So, Mr. Adevaldo, we start with you, sir. Good morning.
Me chamo Adevaldo Dias.
My name is Adevaldo Dias.
Eu estou hoje na coordenação do
Today, I am in the coordination of an organization from the civil society called Memorial Chico Mendes Memorial. It is an entity that was created by CNS, which is the National Council of Extractivist Societies. We are proud of our legacy, mainly in this aspect of guaranteeing the creation of the extractivist territories, developing from 40 years the model of agrarian reform, of the reform, land reform, guaranteeing the ecosystem preservation and the permanence and the ways of lives of those communities. I am from Médio Joá, Carauari municipality. It takes 7 days to get there when the weather is good. Now, in the drought, it's a little bit more. So I really live in the countryside of the Amazon. And I am really proud of following from our territory experiences of entrepreneurship, community ones, which guarantee the principle of our political fight, a territory that is preserved, and the search. I'm not saying we have reached it yet, but the constant search for improvement of quality of life for the people who are there looking after these territories. And these businesses purpose as well economic businesses, businesses, we're talking about sales here, but also through initiatives which go beyond that, because people, they need more than that. They need water, they need communication, connections, they need other things which are beyond this market relationship. So I think we'll be able to tell in a while, this is a little bit, this is an honor for us to be able to reinforce our peers' speeches here those who have talked about their challenges as well. What is a meaningful connection for you? Well, there are some aspects of a meaningful relationship. We have to, first of all, think which relationship. First, we have the relationships among us, the people from the community. If we, from the community, from the same territory, do not have a very agreeable relationship, it's very hard for us to connect to others. So the first meaningful relationship, and very important, is the one that I build within my territory. So it's to have a strengthened organization so that from it I can do connections with other businesses. And then this connection can be with a company, and it can also be with government institutions. We live with many communities which lack public policies. Can you imagine a municipality that takes 7 days for you to travel there? The only way of getting there is by boat, and there is no regulation about the boat. The boat can leave any day. Some days you have 3 boats, and some days you have no boats. So how can I guarantee that my pirarucu, my fish, will get to the market? How will my fish still get fresh in the market that will consume this fish? So these relationships can be diverse, but it is essential that as communities, we connect with the public sphere, for example, at least to recognize what is lacking there, but also good relations with those who want to do businesses that will take into consideration the quality of life of the peoples who live in those communities.
Bom dia, meu nome é
Good
Carolina.
morning, my name is Carolina. I am a biologist. I am from Minas Gerais, but I have been living in Belém for 8 years. I work for Natura, and I work in an area within Natura called an area of relationship with the communities of biodiversity. So thank you for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be in this kind of event and be able to share this business model with you, with the chains and the people in this relationship that has been lasting 24 years. What is a meaningful connection for you? So much has been said about relations and so on, but each person has one way of connecting. So what is it for you? This connection place, meaningful connection place. Well, I think connection is a question of time, trust, and transparency. We connect when we trust each other, when we are true and transparent. A lot has been said here about telling the truth, being open, building things together. This is what generates trust and generates lasting relationships. Aline, please. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Aline Souza. I'm a lawyer and a researcher for the third sector in impact businesses. I am a partner in a law office that has attended to institutes, social movements, impact businesses. I apologize, but her microphone has been off for some reason. Okay, it's back. Only about 30 lawyers seeing to clients in this sector. So much of the experience is due to more than 20 years of experience. I coordinate a project called Contratos Justos na Amazônia, just contracts, fair contracts in the Amazon. The idea is to support smaller companies. We had a round table to talk about this project. I was talking to Ju this morning about what a meaningful connection means, an innovative connection. And I like to think of a few images. I'll use a metaphor here. Every time that we are starting a new physical activity, it can be to play a musical instrument, to play some sports. We realize that we evolve, and suddenly you are doing it automatically. And there is a physical reason. When we create the connections, the nervous connections of sending a message from our brain to playing an instrument, for example, as we send it many times and train that movement, that creates a channel that chemically is called myelina channel. It's like a straw that facilitates this connection. And that's why we improve the more we train. Connection which is meaningful is not just at times, it's constant, and it makes us accelerate transformation. So for me, this connection, meaningful connection, is the one that has been able to build this channel that will guarantee the social transformations that we need in the Amazon. Because it is systemic, it's complex, and which is diverse. Bia, you have been to so many territories. I am honored to have known you for a few years. So please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your role mediating these different realities, please. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor and a joy to have been doing this for 2 years. And when we see more people here, we see FIINSA even more beautiful than before in those 2 other years. So it's a real joy. My name is Bia Saldanha. I come from Acre, which is a territory in the north, even though I am from Rio. You know, from my accent, I am from Rio de Janeiro originally. And I have been living for more than 30 years in the Amazon. I started as an entrepreneur. I came here as such. I am an economist as well, entrepreneur, and I live this reality of entrepreneurship in the Amazon, and I have done so for over 30 years. Nowadays, I have a design company and a design and deployment company called Amazona My Love, Meu Amor in Portuguese. And trying to answer your question, your beautiful question, what are meaningful relationships? I think they are love relationships. When we want to invest in the Amazon, buy, sell, produce in the Amazon, either you do it with a lot of love, with devotion to something that has to make a lot of sense to you, or don't come. Don't come, because this is what needs to move people nowadays. Investors, entrepreneurs, we need to have a love relationship with the people, with the forest, with the place, with the business, with what we are doing. So that is my view of meaningful relationships.
Amor é o que nos guia, né? O que nos faz
Love is what's been guiding us, what makes us human. Mr. Raimundo, are you there? Can you hear us?
Tudo bem? Por favor, se apresente. Fale de onde que o senhor está falando.
Where are you talking from? Talk a little bit about us.
Bom dia a todos e a
Good
todas.
morning, everyone.
Muito obrigado por
Thank you so much for having invited me to be part of this festival.
Eu me chamo João Rolim.
My name is João Rolim.
Meu nome
My full name is very big, so I make it short for João Rolim, which is easier. And I'm talking from a Quilombo territory. I'm a Quilombola. I belong to the community here. I have done so since 2000, the year 2000. In 2017, we founded our Quilombola Association here. It protects the territory that is being marked now. I would like to thank FUNAC, the partnership that they have with us, who is allowing us to have this connection here. We have a board of directors who are working. And I'm here speaking on behalf of my community, which is called Sagrado Coração de Jesus. We are in the municipality here, and we are around a lake here, a very beautiful lake. I would like you to come over here to see us and to visit us. We have also a festival here on a week in November. We celebrate every November. We have a festivity here, and I am here with the objective of proposing a partnership to be able to continue the work that we have been doing with the nature. We work with bees. We have a contract since 1998. I work at first. I did it as a hobby, but then I became rather interested in bees, and now, after the pandemics and due to the difficulties, I decreased my work a little, but now we are trying to get this again. So here, I'm proposing to anyone who would like to invest in our bee community here. I'm proposing, I would like to have a partnership with anyone who would like to work with us. I am here, but there is a whole community. We have a 2,500 hectare territory, and we truly need partners. China and other countries, they cultivate the silk bee there, and we don't cultivate bees in large scale. But there is a potential for that. Our bees are stingless, let's say. So we are still beginning in this process. Okay, Mr. Raimundo, I would just like you to speak a little bit louder so that we can hear you better. Okay? Okay, I'll try to.
Falar pouquinho mais alto, que aí a gente te ouve
because then we can hear you more clearly. You speak a little louder. I speak low. I'm sorry. I apologize. I have to speak louder.
Eu acho que dá para melhorar, né?
Okay.
Sempre dá para melhorar. E ó, seu Raimundo é empreendedor.
Mr. Raimundo is an entrepreneur, quilombola, a producer of honey, and soon we will be back, okay, Mr. Raimundo, to hear you a little further.
Deu para entender, pessoal, pouquinho.
Okay, could you follow?
Vamos da próxima, quando a gente voltar.
Okay, when we are back,
para que a gente possa ouvir o senhor melhor.
So that we can listen to you better, try to speak a little louder. And closer if you can. Okay, so let's start our round of talks to talk about innovative connections. Let's start with you, Mr. Adevaldo. What are the biggest challenges that you have in the communities that you face with regards to relating with companies? And listen a little bit about the guidelines so that these relationships can become prosperous ones. Okay, well, I think it's important that any relationship, meaningful relationship, from our point of view, it has to guarantee our territory. This is something that can't be negotiated. I want to reinforce this need for our people. This is basic. It is a right is negotiable. So we understand that we need to keep our rights. In order to keep the Amazon standing the way it is, we had public policies that motivated destruction. So it was through impact that we guaranteed visibility to other modes. And I will first talk about the relationships that we don't want. We don't want a relationship that threatens the territory. Another relationship that we want is a relationship that explores our community. Manaus is what it is due to the rubber prime, let's say. How much economy and richness has been generated, but what is the relationship that was established with the community that worked with the latex? So this exploration model, we don't want that either. And we don't want the model which weakens our way of organizing the community, because these community organization modes have been built very, very long ago. So you can't change the way people live in a territory just suddenly. But this doesn't mean that we don't want to do business with private investments. We need that, but we need different business models, be them for the productive chain, but also for services. We have a great gap in the community in terms of services that demand entrepreneurships. We are really open to these kinds of businesses. But a challenge that we face most of the times in these relationships, and I have this experience of having lived for more than 35 years doing these experiences with a number of companies, Natura and others. There are many models, but for us, a challenge that we have is in these relationships to establish a middle to long run relationship. You can't change the ways of lives of a community to have a relationship of one harvest, and the next harvest the company disappeared. You changed everything that was going on in that community, and then you just drop the community. That is one of the challenges. Serious and long-lasting relationships. Another aspect is, another challenge has to do with the way we organize ourselves. We need relationships which will take into consideration the way communities get organized within that territory to be able to produce, commercialize, and to live well in that territory. So, to get there, trying to impose your way of producing is not good. It's good to have a dialogue, to understand the way the community produces, so that we can build a new model in this relationship, but not just imposing your model or trying to weaken a community organization, even though it's more sustainable. I know it's more difficult to listen to everyone and to reach a consensus, and sometimes you just try to get one leader and cross over the others, and then you generate internal conflict. This model No, that's not a model that works as well. And a model that helps us to recognize the communities don't know everything. If they knew everything, they would be much better off. They know enough to live in that territory. But it's a challenge to have those opportunities to help the community, but also looking at the things that the territory is actually offering for the community. And there is an operational question, which is in the ethical and fair relationship. It's very common in the commercial relationships, not always, but pay the community their production costs. But how can I establish this production cost? How much do I pay for the work of the communities who are paying this service in this chain? Minimum wage? A minimum wage for those who are in those conditions, does it generate dignity? Is it enough to pay for the cost? So this reflection about the ethical and fair relationship is a challenge that we have, that we talk about every day. We don't close our eyes to that. And sometimes, for those who don't know the Amazon reality, they come to our territory as if the community person had the resources, the conditions to sell their product today and receive their money in 3 months, 6 months. We start to invest on a chain. I'll get a Pirarucu example. People start investing on Pirarucu since the final harvest. Then they have to protect the territory. If they don't start protecting the territory, there won't be fish in a year from now for him to be able to manage fish. So how can you do a business with a community that has spent a year protecting the fish? Okay, how can you buy the fish and the skin and buy only 3 months later? So those who want to actually have a relationship with the communities should think twice. Of course, the company is in a more favorable condition than we are, let's say. It's much easier for a company who is in an urban center to obtain a credit, to pay the community, than for you to get 200 people in a place where there is no bank for them to go after the credit. So companies have to understand that. I think Natura does that. They have to think sometimes of paying in advance. Why? Because if you have a mature relationship, a meaningful relationship like you use it here, why not advance the payment, for example? So these are situations which generate this meaningful situation. And there is another aspect which I think is important, which is communication.
Os negócios com a comunidade é como se eu fui lá, salvei a comunidade. A comunidade como um sujeito passivo, sabe? O beneficiário, né? A gente precisa, na hora de comunicar também, ter a decência de comunicar o
understand that when we need to communicate, we must communicate with the community also, because only these people produce, and the situations are challenging in a way that on this side of the communities, we try to understand, to collaborate with people who want to be entrepreneurs in these places. Thank you. Raimundo, we had this conversation with him, and he has doubts about how to be an interpreter in this territory. Raimundo, are you here to tell us a little bit about what are the doubts on how to sell your honey to outside the community? So I would like to take this opportunity here with these people that are sharing knowledge, and so we can understand a little bit more. We have a little bit difficulty to listen to you. If you can speak a little bit louder. it can help us to understand you better.
Eu acho que chegando mais perto aqui, acho que melhora, né?
I think coming closer, it gets better.
Assim, eu também acho que sobre essa
I
conexão,
think about this connection.
uma palhinha aí, para mim é bem fácil, é quando a relação ela é
When the relationship is a win-win situation. When we win and the environment wins as well, this relationship, I think it's really important.
dúvidas que eu tenho
Related to the questions I have is that, in fact, we produce the most Amazonians,
nós produzimos ainda a
we
forma
produce in an empirical way.
o mel é produto de
And honey is a product
muito refinado, mel de abelha, e da abelha, nossa abelha amazônica, Cenamo.
The Amazon bees that produce the honey.
Minha preocupação é que a produção
And my concern is that
seja uma produção de qualidade, né?
the production is a quality production. It's the quality of the product.
Essa qualidade
How to, the thing is how to get this quality. We need tools.
Por exemplo, o mel ele tem uma
Honey, for example,
umidade, grau de
it
umidade.
has moist.
Quando a gente extrai o mel da colmeia,
When we extract the honey from the honeybee, from the hive, sorry,
de desumidificador para manter pH.
We need a humidifier to keep a natural pH.
É o meu processo também.
That's a long, lengthy process.
E também a pergunta
And also,
que poderia fazer para melhorar a venda
the
fora
question I would like to ask to improve the life outside my community is quantity of production. I am the one that produces the most. I have told people to do the same, but I am still the person who produces the most. It's not enough. Honey is something, it doesn't expire because before putting in the jar, you already have a lot of purchasers. I sell the production completely. I had about 38, 40 beehives.
Que é o Fernandinho, um rapaz muito conhecido aqui no município de Itacoatiara.
Guy that's very well known here called Fernandinho at Poranga Farm. I've worked a lot with him.
E na prática também tive bastante experiência. E ele já faleceu.
He has already passed.
Mas é assim.
So I don't have this partnership anymore. I used to sell boxes.
As melípenas com as trigonas também. Eu produzia e vendia para ele. Nós produzíamos juntos. Chegamos a trabalhar.
We produced and sold a lot.
Bem mesmo, bem mais fácil foi com a nossa abelhas sem ferramenta. E então a minha preocupação
my concern is to have a quality honey, quality product, and quantity to be able to sell.
Para chamar freguesia, né? Mas
and also to advertise. We don't have the means to invest.
E me propondo a conseguir.
I would like to be able to obtain investments
no nosso território, aqui no nosso território, já que nós temos uma área
to be able to run this business in this territory, our territory. We have big areas in our territory, recovery areas.
futuramente, quando nós tivermos a documentação toda no território, o corredor ecológico econômico, onde nós iremos, vai ser um lugar onde nós exploraremos esse tipo de
where we are going to exploit this kind of culture, which is the production of honey.
Não sei se respondi, mas se tiver mais pergunta, eu não sei se ficou boa agora aí o som. Se tiver mais pergunta, eu posso responder.
If you have any more questions, please let me know.
Então, eu acho que agora eu já vou passar a palavra aqui, né, para a gente respeitar o tempo.
I think now I'm going to give the floor to Carol, so you can bring the questions of Mr. Raimundo related to the quality of product. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience about Natura? I think I'm going to take this opportunity talk. It wasn't in a day that Natura, the cosmetic company, I mentioned a few points on how it's been a construction of over 20 years here in the Amazon, with a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversations to understand all these points that Adevaldo mentioned. We act today 44 organizations in the Amazon that have different arrangements and conditions and collectives, and how can we deal with all of that? Factors that makes us today to be here in this relationship, long relationship, and expanding in new groups is that Natura has internalized this relationship with the communities as a business model. This area of relations of communities, it's inside the purchasing area of Natura. It's part of our business model. And with that, we were able to build policies for this relationship and commercialization laws. We have policies where we pay in advance when we hire the crops. We pay in short term for cooperatives and associations. We can actually establish contracts, long-term contracts, and we understand that this relationship must be long-term to grow, to be able to grow. When we start supplying the group, sometimes we start small with a very small volume, which is the capacity that that group has to organize. And with time, it grows. We have to respect this time of growth and organization of productive capacity of the land and the people. Another point is, in Natura, we research the active substances, and when we understand together with the community, what's the inventory capacity of that? We talk about not only the trees' capacity, but the people's capacity to collect and store these actives. Another two things that I highlighted and I wrote down here is that Natura has got a dedicated team to have this direct relationship with social bio. We have a robust, big team dedicated to that. It's not easy. We build this organization and this governance within the company, and we understood that acting directly, being in the field, being present is what makes us stand out. In this line that Adevaldo brought, how can we understand what to do with every group according to their organization? How can we collaborate with them? We have programs today with 4 technical sort of assistance support with best practices of industrial production, field production. What is quality for the cosmetics industry? We give the support, we work with that throughout the necessary time. And we also give support to organizational support. With these 44 associations, they have different levels of organization and maturity. How can we give support to what's important to them, for them to develop as organizations, and finally, support on how adding value in the end. And this is today in this group of 44 people, 18 out of it, they have agri-industry, and they are not just raw material suppliers of seeds and leaves, and they started to become suppliers of oils and butters. That adds a lot of value in the end. But it also relies on the desire of the group and their understanding if it's time to give a step further or not. We have built throughout time this relationship, and we understand these points now. This is why we have a long-lasting relationship. Bia, you have been everywhere translating all these opportunities between communities and companies. I would like to hear from you about your experiences in this innovative context. What have you seen? What can you adapt related to companies and community? So can people communicate better? Firstly, I would like to say that the presentation of Raimundo is really important. It's really important for us to understand and to have this perspective related to communication. Maybe we are there in the territory and we don't understand why, because it's another, they are different voices. We are living different times. A lot of people here are observing, everybody is on their mobiles. We come from far away. We spend a lot of money to be here, and we have this big opportunity to be here, speaking with Adevaldo, who is a kind of professor, a teacher. If you talk to him like 30 minutes only, you will have a lesson. So attention. The challenge now is to keep our attention. Natura's experience. Carol mentioned a manual here. You didn't arrive here with this experience. I saw it happening. When Natura started doing research, it was sued. It had to learn from it. It took time and a lot of effort and practice. It's proximity, dedication, it's listening and studying. That makes a lot of difference. And talking about my experience, I feel like telling a story when we are talking about rights are non-negotiable. And our lawyer is going to talk about a series of studies that she has done. But in my presentation, I skipped this part, but if you know my story, if you don't know my story, I come from the fashion industry. And then I fell in love for the Amazon. I had my love story with the Amazon. I was 28 years old. And I started to develop raw materials, traditional handicraft. We started to adequate that from the Amazon to the fashion industry. And we started calling it like vegetable leather. We created a line of product that got the attention, this raw material, this fabric. It was some rubbery fabric. And it was some sort of canvas, rubbery canvas. And that drew the attention of a very, very famous fashion brand from France. a very prestigious one, and we were in that process of adequation and innovation. We were investing. We got into that because of it. We went through process of investment. We took over that. I won't have time to tell everything. There is a book about it. It's called Amazon on the 20th Floor, and we created a patent. We registered in this product, and this major French brand, when they wanted to buy our product, we went to Paris to negotiate in the fanciest places you can ever imagine. We were there for 3 days negotiating, very hard negotiations with long contracts. And at a certain point, the boss of the leather department of this company said to us, look, there is a point here about intellectual property. We are going to continue investing in the improvement of your product. And we want to have the intellectual property of this improvement. We had everything settled. It was a 10-year contract. We were really, really excited, obviously, with that opportunity. The price they were going to pay was way above what we were selling to our clients. And when he mentioned intellectual property, I said, no, I don't want it. I don't accept it. This product, a detail, this patent we registered was shared with the communities that helped us to develop this product. It was based on traditional handicraft of rubber extractors in the Amazon. And then he interrupted the meeting and said, oh, let's have lunch. And then amazing lunch, French food, French wine. We went back to the negotiation table, and then he asked me, why you don't want to negotiate the intellectual property of your product? And she said, it's because it's mine. It's ours. Rights are non-negotiable. I think this is an example of we closed the deal. They accepted our conditions. And I think that's an example of that some things are negotiable. I could tell lots of stories here, but let's respect time. We have an opportunity, a precious opportunity here to listen, to be heard, to learn. We have our teachers here that know about the Amazon. Let's work together and let's pay attention.
Direito não se negocia, mas contrato sim, né?
Rights are non-negotiable, but contracts are, right? So today we know that there are more than 8,000 communities in the Amazon that preserve more than 8,000 acres of land. How can you do that to understand what kinds of contracts we negotiate? Can you tell us about the best practices? Then we will send that to all the entrepreneurs of the forest. This answer we are going to find in the territories, and every single one will have their own peculiarities. We live in a country that values the oral traditions. It comes from our ancestors and our ways of communicating. And when we negotiate something mouth-to-mouth, a verbal contract, it is legally valid. There is a case of Ike Batista that promised a part of a share of his company written in a napkin. If it's in a napkin or in a piece of paper or it's spoken, there is not a problem with that because the Brazilian law authorizes contracts to be done verbally. It's just few ones that the law says they must be written. If you sell real estate, for example, you must put that in writing. But for other things, it can be verbal. It sounds all really cool, okay, but when a problem happens, what's the difference between documents in paper and then verbal contracts? It's memory. If you have to fight judicially, you have a document. And when I started to do the first research of the contracts, I had a very good conversation with Bia. Something I had inside me, I used to think maybe we should have a safer way of doing verbal contracts, safer for communities also. And then before suggesting and thinking anything about it, let's check at when 5 times come legal ones, what's going to happen. We checked. The news are not good about it. When the verbal contracts get to the judicial, they say it's valid. They say they are valid. Okay, someone is going to pay, someone's going to sell. But show me a written document to prove that that actually happened. Just a few were accepting witnessing ways of proof with witnesses. It was difficult. We could be more advanced. Other countries, they have better practices to register verbal contracts, but what we recommend here and to have advances related to contracts and selling and buying contracts, what we negotiate, it's what we said, looking at each other in the eye. It's valid, but we need witnesses for that. The recommendation is to have some sort of contract. We need to have like a recorded version or a written version with images. Maybe we can make a video of the agreement. This is a first step of what we can think about contracts with communities. And also I would like to say that sometimes lawyers, sometimes they have bad reputation, and in our work, we lawyers, we look at risks. We try to understand what can go wrong. Sometimes I'm helping investors, for example, and when it's a startup or impact business, sometimes people say, no, I don't negotiate this right, as Bia told before. And investors, sometimes they say, oh, yeah, I can see you're serious about it. So my invitation here is for you, when you have relationships with communities or other types of relationships where the other side doesn't have a space for bargain, for negotiating, this way is good, this other way is not good. That should be a sign that we must be in a relationship of inequality. It's worrying. So that should be an alert. If the contract arrived and you just signed without asking any questions, something might be wrong. And just to contribute with something else here, we have been developing this project about how to develop fair contracts, and it's just fair if they are able to understand. We have applied this methodology before, and sometimes negotiations, they go down because of that. This is better than finding out about it only when some problem come up. Sometimes when people that are negotiating, when they are going to write a contract, they put themselves in a position where they don't understand the clauses and they don't know how to solve things. They believe in the lawyers to apply the rules of the market. And people, it doesn't work. The rules of the market are not a thing. They're not a real thing. So you should have responsibility. Entrepreneurs, companies, investors, if you are negotiating contracts, don't delegate negotiation of the clauses, especially the most difficult ones, to lawyers, to the legal professionals, because then they will create sometimes very complex contracts that don't reflect the reality. We have a lot of freedom to do contracts. Any person can write a contract because it's the capacity of looking at risks and how to solve them if a problem comes up. So I will give you this advice. Just understand everything. If one side of it's not being able to negotiate because of many even cultural issues that we must face, that must be an alert. If we really want to decrease inequalities, we have to pay attention to them. So I would like to finalize my... It's just fair if you can understand. If it's super completely clear and it's not fair, it's only fair if it's more equal. We have to declare situations when we are facing inequality and to reduce it. Carolina brought an example from Natura, Adevaldo also brought examples. These are ways to balance it out, this relationship that doesn't have any symmetry. Long-term contracts, inversion of obligations, sometimes fees, who has to pay for the fees or taxes? These obligation inversions, they also reduce our symmetries. And it's only fair if it improves the life of the people and the environment. We must go for a positive impact. We can never think that a contract is neutral. We have this commitment. We have to compromise. We have to test it next year. It's a methodology that's going to be very good. And I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you. People, we are running out of time. Everybody is hungry, but I'm going to ask 30 seconds of every single one of you for final considerations. What's the main tip, the most valuable tip for that community that wants to have a relationship?
Acho que dica, assim, empresa que quer se relacionar com comunidade.
Companies who want to relate with communities and they have a dedicated team with a purpose, wanting to make this happen. I think this is the fundamental role. You need to have bridges. Communities who want to relate to companies, you are welcome. We want to expand. Natura wants to expand. We want to keep growing. Please look for me at the end of the meeting. Bia.
Alô.
Okay.
Apaixonem-se.
Fall in love. Fall in
Se
love.
relacionem
Relate
verdadeiramente
truly
com amor,
with love,
engajamento,
with engagement,
né? Com coração.
okay, with your heart.
Apaixonem-se.
Fall in love.
Aline.
Estando aqui o meu lugar de
Well,
fala de advogado.
from my place of speech as a lawyer, after you fall in love, let's negotiate this relationship. Let's understand this marriage, okay? Once you fall in love.
Só queria falar uma coisinha.
I just wanted to say something that a contract is not just a piece of paper. It can be your law security in the relationship, and it can be an instrument for social and climate justice. So let's work on that. Mr. Raimundo, I would like to thank you, but we are short of time. So talk a little bit more. Mr. Adevaldo, can you please close this panel? Okay, what's your main lesson? I won't be able to be as concise as they have been, but I thought Bia was going to mention a situation, but she didn't. Bia has helped to develop a business between communities and companies that places the organization of the community inside the business. I have the price of the product, but I have the organization. You don't know, Bia, how much this was and is meaningful for the continuity of the businesses in the organization. It makes them more transparent, and the community organization has a resource to be able to make their lives happen. I thought she was going to talk about that, but I want to reinforce the importance of that. Entrepreneurs, we really want to do business. The communities really need you to do business. And we are aware as well that some businesses in the Amazon, they are difficult. They are difficult to become feasible. We work with chains that we try to get from the forest to the consumer in the state of São Paulo. But even though you can't generate dignity to the community, so we also want to discuss with you a way of paying by service, by environment services, because part of it, the market can't account for that. So I think it is a need for us to emphasize this need for us to discuss this theme, because we have seen there are things in the Amazon due to the conditions that we have that don't end up in businesses, but come and do business with the communities. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Bom, pessoal, esse foi nosso último painel.
Okay, this was our last panel in the morning. We will see each other in the main stage where we will have our lunch. We will be back.
A gente pede que vocês levem as coisas de vocês.
We want you to please take your belongings with you, because there will be a change in this room, and everyone needs to leave the room and go to the lunch room, to our meeting where we will have the lunch. Reminding you that Mercado da Amazônia, the market is open till 2 p.m. So go there, see if you can do some shopping. All right, honor the more than 50 products who are from the Amazon.
A gente se encontra às 2.
We will be back at 2 p.m. in the rooms as we did yesterday. We'll have the 3 rooms and 1 more room downstairs. Please check the program to see where you are heading for. And once again, we ask you to please leave the meeting, because we will have to use this room and make a few changes here. So we'll see you in the main room. Have a great lunch. Thank you.